We're nearing the end of the era of the movie soundtrack for Elvis's career, and one of the last handful of movies that he did in the late '60s, in '68 and '69, was a movie called Speedway, and the soundtrack for Speedway comes at about the halfway mark. It's number 31, and halfway through the album, there's a Nancy Sinatra song from the movie called Your Groovy Self. And it's weird, when I was listening to this, kind of binging this album collection, that you get halfway, almost exactly halfway through an Elvis box set, and then there's just a Nancy Sinatra song right in the middle. It's really fascinating to me for some reason. Because that really is aside from little cameo duet vocal appearances, sort of, in some of the other soundtracks, there's not really much to make the case in the earlier soundtracks that they're from a movie musical that had other people singing. And in fact, that was one of the things with the movies, is that Elvis was typically the only one who got to sing in an Elvis movie musical. And Margaret got 2 numbers. Actually, she got 3 numbers, if you count the duet with Elvis on The Lady Loves Me in Viva Las Vegas. But none of those appeared on album. Like I said before, it was just an EP, and they were strictly Elvis's songs. None of the duets. This is different. This actually has Nancy Sinatra doing Your Groovy Self, which coincidentally, if I recall correctly, was written by the same songwriter who had written her big hit, These Boots Are Made for Walking. And so they were really kind of actually counting on her popularity at the time to kind of bolster the success of the movie. And they also duet on the album on There Ain't Nothing Like a Song. And that's another thing that, yeah, Lee Hazelwood wrote Your Groovy Self. Very 60s song. Especially when you compare it with a couple of the other songs on here that Elvis does. Let Yourself Go is kind of, most people cite as the standout track from this, and for good reason. It's definitely a really fun song. The '68 Comeback Special version is better, but it's a fun scene in the movie, and it's a fun song on the album. This is one of the few soundtracks that comes off like a movie musical soundtrack, because there's even when you're watching it, and we'll get into that when I review the movie, but He's Your Uncle, Not Your Dad sounds like a stupid title on the soundtrack, but it's actually like a fully choreographed musical number in an Elvis movie, which was actually fairly rare. I mean, they had background dancers and stuff, but Elvis is actually participating in the movie, and that just kind of gives it something special that a lot of the other movies didn't. He wasn't just kind of doing that back and forth thing that he always did. As far as the songs themselves from the movie, Speedway, the title song, is actually pretty good. Static X, the metal band, did a cover of that a while back and this is going on 10 years ago, or maybe more, probably closer to 15. And it was for NASCAR, I think, that they did a cover. And it's actually kind of intense that they would do such an obscure Elvis song and give it such a heavy metal treatment. It's pretty cool. It's pretty badass. There are a few kind of ones. Your Time Hasn't Come Yet, Baby, and Who Are You? Your Time Hasn't Come Yet, Baby is kind of cutesy. He's like singing it to like a kid. So in the context of the movie, we'll get to that. taking it on the soundtrack, though, it's fine. It's fine. It's a movie soundtrack. Continuing on the tradition, it has 5 bonus songs, 5 Sleepyheads, which is another kid's song, like a lullaby. Western Union, Mine, Going Home, and Suppose. It is storming here in Hot Springs. If you heard that, that was a nice little boom. But of those 5 bonus songs, I like them all except for 5 Sleepyheads. And there's a time and a place for 5 Sleepyheads. It was in a movie, and it should have been in a movie. It is where that song really belongs. Not necessarily on an album as a bonus track, but Mine in particular is one of my favorites because it's just a very simple piano ballad. And Suppose is another one, and Elvis actually really liked the song Suppose. There are home recordings of him doing Suppose, and you can tell just by the way he performs it that he's invested in the song, and he feels like he's being challenged by it. So yeah, as far as Speedway is concerned, as a soundtrack, it actually is one of the better ones for coming off like a movie musical soundtrack. So do I recommend it? Yeah. As a companion to the movie, I would say I would definitely recommend it. This one also has an insert of a photo of Elvis. Hopefully it will focus there. There we go. And then on the back side there is actually a catalog of records you can buy. So yeah, as far as a movie musical soundtrack, it actually is quite good. In the context of his greater career, I would say take a few of the bonus songs and take like Let Yourself Go, and listen. You could listen to those at any time and be fine, and enjoy them. The rest of them work better in the context of the movie. So that's Speedway.